everyone? This is a Popcorn Heroes review of Rambo Último Blood. That's how it's going to be in Telemundo when it gets there.
You gotta say, Rambo.
Último Sangre.
They play Rambo a lot
Sangre.
in,
Yeah, they play a lot of those like old movies.
Yeah.
And there was Spanish version of it.
So Rambo Part 5. Rambo
Yes.
Last Blood.
I am Armando. With me as always is Pedro
Hello,
and
hello.
God's gift, Orlando.
Yo.
So we saw Rambo Last Blood.
Yes, sir.
We're going to review it. Obviously, you're listening to that because of that.
Quick summary.
Summary, Pedro. Let me know what's up.
For those living under a rock, Rambo is an ex-soldier from the Vietnam War, you know, suffering from PTSD and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And this is Part 5, so it follows him living life in Arizona with some family.
Quiet life.
A quiet life. He's got a ranch and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then his niece decides to go to Mexico, and all hell breaks loose.
Here we go.
And then Rambo gets very angry.
Rambo.
So it's pretty much him versus the cartel.
Good premise, Pedro. Loved it. Every second of it.
Cool, man.
So, Orlando, 1 out of 5. What did you think?
2.5.
Nice.
It's not it's pretty bad in terms of like dialogue wise. Action wise, it's pretty good. It's just the setup for the action takes a long time to get there. And yeah, I feel like they should have just compressed it just to get more of the action. Other than that, because
I mean, it is a pretty compressed movie. It's an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
short. So,
It is
So
short.
you said it's long. It's not long.
yeah, they should have just made the action scenes longer then
Yeah.
and cut the fluff.
It's 89 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
Pedro, 1 out of 5.
I also give it a 2.5. I didn't quite not fully like it, but I didn't quite fully like it either.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, it's so-so. It's perfectly smack dab in the middle. There were things I liked, and there were a lot of things I didn't. So it was kind of like, eh.
Mhm.
Yeah, the overall, I guess the first half of it, I didn't like all the unnecessary plot points. At the end of the day, they were all completely unnecessary. It was just to get Rambo from point A to point B, and I felt they could have compressed it, made it more interesting, made it more compelling. Like, all that was useless. Yeah, the action scenes are great, you know, in the last act, but I don't know. It just didn't seem worth it. It didn't seem worth waiting all of that just for that.
Yeah, the payoff wasn't good.
The acting, there's the acting for a lot of characters, which I'll get into in the spoiler parts, and they were fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like, it's just straight awful.
Yeah.
So Stallone was the best actor there, which is
Yeah.
that's not good.
Yeah. Tough.
So there's that.
I will agree with that statement. 2.5. I mean, it was an okay movie, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it was highly unnecessary.
Very.
The action scenes were good. I enjoyed the action scenes, especially how fucking over the top they were. It was so good.
Yeah, there was a part that went a little too over the top, and
man.
we'll mention that at the end, and
It
I
was-
did not like it.
It was so funny. Like, it was so over the top, and I enjoyed that about it. I especially loved hearing the audience go, oh!
Right.
And I remember this lady next to her, she's like, oh! She was like that. I'm like, oh, dude, it's not that serious.
But you can
Yeah.
do over the top right, and I feel like this movie doesn't do it right.
Yeah.
I
You know what
enjoyed it.
movie did over the top right?
John
Wick
Wick.
3.
You can do over the top.
Yeah, but the thing is that John Wick is over the top in action. This is over the top in gore.
Right.
So like, there's two different type of
Yeah,
things
it's true
here.
because John Wick also is fast paced.
It's very fast,
So
and you don't see it.
You don't sit with the gore long enough.
No.
This movie kind of like wants you to see.
It's like, see this shit.
Yeah,
You
which
know?
is kind of annoying.
Yeah. See how this fucking knife goes in there and does all these crazy things.
Yeah.
Again, it was an okay movie, dude. I mean, I would probably not recommend it to people unless you've seen all of them and like, might as well. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend it.
I wouldn't
Pedro,
recommend it.
Orlando.
Nope.
Honestly, just watch part 1 and part 4.
4 was better than this one for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, okay, you got to watch 1. Definitely 2. 2 isn't that great a movie, honestly, but it's got all the iconic shit that people put to Rambo. But if you want an actual compelling movie about like PTSD and like mental trauma,
Yeah.
watch part 1 only.
And this
just,
one
and just stop it there.
This one had a slight. It touched it.
Yeah, it's
A little bit.
sprinkled on it, but it was such a half-assed thing that it was practically pointless. Like, it didn't even matter. The times he remembered it was pointless.
Yeah, it was the beginning.
There was nothing that reminded him of it in the moments that mattered. So, yeah, it was just like, oh, yeah, by the way, he fought in the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me how well the other movies were.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into the spoilers, everyone. Spoilers ahead. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, this movie. I mean, who gives a fuck, right, guys? Spoilers ahead. Let's get it into it. Pedro, how did you feel about the controversy this movie had?
Okay, so for
controversy?
For those not understanding what the controversy is, that they're saying this movie had a xenophobic, culturally insensitive look on Mexico and Mexicans in total. They're pretty much saying this is a very Trump-ish view of Mexicans and the border and all that stuff. I call bullshit on all of that.
Yeah, me too.
It's just a movie where he's just like, all right, I'm finally going to live in America, and wouldn't it be cool if we get back to there's violence in America again and, like, you know, whatever. Or at least, you know, here. So he just thought, shit, if I'm going to be living here, well, it's right next to the border, and I did just see Man on Fire. I thought, fuck it, why not? So it really was just, ooh, what's crazy? Damn, wouldn't it be crazy if you run into, like, a cartel? There you go. That's all it was.
Yeah. I don't think anything that happened in this movie was intentional.
No, it wasn't intentional for...
And I don't even necessarily think it was, oh my God, vision-wise, I'll make this about this because of my political beliefs and all this bullshit.
No.
I just think it was just, he made a movie and it just happens people to view it that way.
Dude, it's fucking Taken. They had sex rings in all over Europe and Taken. No one had a goddamn panic attack.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same shit.
Yeah, I think if you're looking, even I said it. I was like, what if this movie's like a
Trump propaganda?
Trump propaganda.
You know which part you were probably thinking of? The part where he actually just runs through the quote unquote border, which is just a fence that was barbed wire, and he just runs it over.
It was actually before that. I think I was thinking about. I was like, but I could see if someone takes it that way, but. You know, you have to realize. I mean, you have to realize the reality of it. Like, he is on the border.
Yeah.
The cartel exists.
Yeah.
They do sex trafficking.
And
They're
drugs.
fucked up people.
It's a reality.
So this is a reality.
And it looked like they were in a shitty area.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they were like, oh man, the only part you saw in Mexico was a dump. Well, that's the only part they went to.
Yeah.
So it's not like they fucking went to Mexico City and all like the nice spots.
Yeah.
No, they literally went to the hood.
Yeah.
Because that's where the dad was.
Yeah.
And then
When that girl.
and the girl, yeah, and then shit got real, and then there you go.
Yeah.
You go to the hood, shit's gonna happen.
Naturally. I mean, I think people are taking it to the extremes.
It's like if it was a movie in New York and they went to Chinatown, like, oh, they make it from the Asian people live in Chinatown.
You're
so
absolutely right.
What did you expect?
Yeah.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown. What are you trying to say?
So I mean, I don't really see that it's a bad like. I don't think it's a bad.
There isn't
image.
a message.
I don't think it's a bad image on Mexicans. It's just like this does happen.
There is no message for sure.
Yeah, there isn't. And I think for the most part, like I said,
there was no. Yeah, you're right.
So
the only message was, which is what he said in the beginning, that at the end of the day, all humans are terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible people. Like no matter where he goes around the world, because that's pretty much what happens.
He's been everywhere.
He's been everywhere around the world, and he always sees the same thing. People are just scum, and that he mentions in the beginning.
Yeah.
If you want to watch, other him crack on other nationalities, just watch the other movies.
Yeah.
And
he talks shit about Russians in 3.
I guess that one kind of wipes it out because, like, at the end of the day, like, it just shows you that every nationality, every like people, we all have our bad apples or whatever.
Yeah,
you
of
know?
course.
Like it just that's just how it is. So to pick it out and just say, oh, this represents all of Mexicans, or like this movie represents all of Mexicans, then you're doing a disservice as well.
Yeah.
Because then you're not realizing that like this is just one sector.
Yeah.
And if you're taking it that way, then you might have to like take a look at
It's,
yourself.
I think essentially people imposing their views.
Because there's a review I read where it's like every single Mexican is there is portrayed as bad. I'm like, nah, man, you had the reporter, you had the doctor. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
And the reporter actually helped them. So it's kind of like,
I mean, it's like, no, dude.
the doctor helped him. He fucking stitched them up. So it's kind of like,
what if every other character happened to be a gang member? Because he was in gang member territory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like they were literally falling. They were even doing the whistle. Like, hey, there's an outsider here. Like, you're in their turf.
Yeah.
It's like this scene in Training Day.
Yeah.
You're gonna say, oh, there you go. No, man, it's just the section he's at.
Yeah, it's true. And
so I think it's completely blown out of proportion.
It is
It's just
definitely.
people just trying to make headlines and get clicks.
Yeah, no, for sure. And
honestly,
again, people imposing their views and their political views on a movie that has none of that.
I'm not saying it would have helped the movie, because at the end of the day, the movie's not that great. So even without these headlines,
But
it wouldn't have helped the movie.
Yeah.
I don't think this hurt the movie either. I think it's just kind of like,
It is what it is. And like,
yeah. I do see people. I like always when if you have a hatred towards something or you have a negative belief for something,
You're gonna find
you're gonna
something.
gravitate towards any sort of media or any sort of message that it's
Right.
confirmation bias. You're going to believe what you want to believe, and then you're gonna disregard the facts.
And you're gonna find anything that gives you that power.
Yeah. So I do believe that people who are against like Mexicans who are who are pro border are gonna see that part where he goes across the fence.
Yeah, and then you're like, look how easy it
And
is
look
to
at-
get in.
look at-
But here's the funny part that Armando brought up. It was
Yeah.
like, oh wow, are they trying to say something? Like maybe we need a wall or whatever. But then what happens when the cartel goes to Arizona?
A few scenes later, they show that big ass
They show
wall,
the wall.
and then they show the Mexicans going under the wall. So it's
Yes.
kind of like you're not gonna fucking beat. If we're gonna get in, they're gonna fucking
Yeah.
get in. You know.
So, all right. So here's my big problem with the movie. Actually, there's quite a few. So here's one of the biggest ones. The father, when she finally met the dad, he was dubbed.
I didn't notice that shit.
That
dude.
bothered me so much. I'm looking at him like, why is his acting so bad? Why does his tone not match his voice? And if you notice, the voice and the mouth didn't sync up. They
Oh,
dubbed him.
shit, dude.
He must have had a really shitty accent, and they dubbed him afterwards.
Oh.
And I noticed it the second time when Sylvester Stallone meets with him again, and it's the same thing. I'm like, oh my god, they dubbed this guy. He sounds horrible. He sounds so bad. It doesn't make sense to me.
I didn't notice that at all.
And I was like, yep, this fucking sucks. So okay, aside from that technical thing,
I'm surprised they could have just had that scene in Spanish because the daughter spoke Spanish, and
That is
Sylvester
true.
alone knows Spanish.
Yeah.
So they could just have him speak Spanish.
It
if
was,
that was
it
the
was,
case.
it was,
That was a really dumb way to do it. They should have just had him speak Spanish. You're right,
So
Orlando.
my problem with this movie is that it felt like what we used to call STDs, straight to DVDs. This felt like a VOD movie. It did. It felt like a VOD movie.
Like it should have been on Netflix.
This should have been on. Should have been a Netflix movie or one of those just on-demand movies. This didn't deserve a theatrical release. It didn't look like it had a theatrical release.
Yeah.
This was a very low-budget movie.
Of course, yeah.
Like it was point A to point B, and it was all small sets. Very like, I don't know. Even, I mean, the gore effects they were decent.
They were really good though.
They were
Those
decent.
squibs were on point.
Yeah, a lot of it was CG though, but it's just it felt low budget. The acting, the whole vibe of it just felt very, very small.
Right.
But I didn't like the whole first half of the movie. You're focused so much on
That girl.
this girl. There's so much backstory to like. First of all, Rambo didn't have no fucking family, and suddenly in this movie he's got family. He's got like a niece and shit. And I'm like, where the fuck did you get a niece? Where'd you get all these people
It
from?
seems like he just made friends with them and then they adopted him in. Is that what the case? It looks like.
I
I
Because
did
at the
not
end of the four,
understand.
he went home, and they
At
showed
the
the scene with he was walking up to the ranch, which I'm assuming is that ranch he was in. So how the fuck did he meet all his family? you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, yeah, maybe they're just people that he was
helped out.
that he
or-
helped out, maybe. But I mean, the movie didn't really explain that much,
No,
and I
it
was
didn't.
just kind of like, who the fuck are these family members?
It did
that
not
are,
explain anything.
But they spent so much time like trying to make you care about this
daughter.
family,
Yeah.
like out of the blue, doing so much backstory, like of the wife, even that friend, whoever. Well, I guess I was like a cousin or something.
It was
like
just a friend.
a friend, like a hood ass friend
Yeah.
that lives in Mexico. That's like, oh, she's bad news. What the hell? What's going on here? What is this? And then she comes over there. Like, I didn't know what her relation was. I didn't understand any of that. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
you're just creating these characters just so she can. The whole point was just let's have Rambo's heart get ripped out for this movie.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
And we spent half a movie getting the girl. Oh,
To
she's
Mexico,
over here.
yeah.
Oh, she's arguing with the dad. Oh, now she's with the sister. Now she's in the club. Now she disappears. Now we're gonna follow her. Oh, we're gonna save her, and then we're just gonna have her die on the road. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm looking at my watch, and I'm like, yo, this was like 40 minutes of this shit. Why?
Yeah.
When you could have done this.
And that's
You-
that's one
you-
of the
you-
things that Taken does really well. That Taken gives you what 15 minutes maybe at most with his family,
Right, and bam, straight to the
and
point.
straight into the point.
If you're just gonna make it Taken, make it like fucking Taken. Don't make me care. Try to make me care about stuff.
and that's the problem. It tried
It
to
tried.
make you care.
But though I was bored in the movie, kind of
Yeah.
like I've seen this movie before, but way better, and this is way worse.
But
And I know you and me and talked about it, Armando. There was no point for this movie to take place in two different places. Like, oh, he's
Yeah.
in Arizona, now he's got to go to Mexico, then he's got to go back, then he's got to go back to Mexico,
Yeah.
and then he's got to go back. I'm like,
And
what
that's
is all
exactly
this?
what I was telling
I'm
Orlando.
like, the whole thing should have either took place in Arizona or took place in Mexico and called it a day.
That's exactly what I told Orlando.
Yeah.
I don't mind the scenery, right? because you start off in Arizona and then you go to Mexico,
And
whatever.
right. You go from a nice peaceful to like crowded and
Yeah.
crazy and dark, and that's
And
fine.
I don't mind any of that. It's a good change of pace. But the biggest problem I felt where it was a waste of time was when he goes back to Arizona to take the daughter, his niece back, and like, oh, she's dead, whatever. And then he goes back to Mexico. He kills the cartel guy. And then he goes back home. I'm like, dude, just fucking stay in Mexico
And wreck 'em.
and
Yeah.
go crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, why do you have to go back home?
They were trying to do the whole, hey, I built this fucking nice set piece of a tunnel. We got to use it for the climax of the movie.
which for me, I think it would have been better if you would have the tunnels would have been a PTSD type of thing. Like, oh, here's where I go to hide away. Here's where I OCDing and shit like that.
Yeah,
whatever.
according to the movie, it reminds him of the stuff. So
Which
I was
is
just
cool.
like,
which
don't
I get it, fine, but it should have never been used. I think he should have just stayed in fucking Mexico and killed them all there. Like, there's no point of going back and forth, like you said, between two set pieces. I'm like, why, dude? Like, just fucking stay in Mexico. You had it all set up.
It was a lot of wasted time. It was just them trying to drag out the runtime of the movie.
But as soon as he killed that guy,
yeah.
like, that's it. You should have action.
Yeah.
The last 20, 30 minutes of the movie should have been pure action.
Yeah. So by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was also scratching my head. I'm like, okay, so the guy's taking a shower, right? Because you hear the water running. He goes inside, kills him off screen, which I think was already like
That was stupid.
That was already stupid. It's like, wait a minute.
You
This is
show
the
me
main,
everything.
This is the main one. I'm gonna kill that guy. Okay. Then you kill him off screen, and then when you see his body, it's fully clothed. I'm like, didn't you kill him in the shower? He's just missing.
He dressed him up.
He's just you dressed him back up. You cut off his head, and then you stabbed your niece's photo into his chest.
What if
He was taking a shit.
he was about to go take a shower?
I guess he could have.
I turn on the water sometimes.
I turn on the water a little bit.
What's an extra few minutes of showing him actually die? You know?
Yeah.
If this
or
really
at least
is,
him opening the door and seeing his face and then cut.
So I was reading someone talk about these types of movies, and I can kind of agree with it. This is a dad revenge fantasy movie. This is where the father figure gets like hurt, and then he finally gets to unleash all of his pain. You know, they've been doing it for years, like ever since like Death Wish in the 70s and so on, all over. So if the point of these movies is to be like, yeah, kill him in the most goriest way, why are you gonna cut off the main? Why are you gonna kill the main one off screen essentially? Because the one you went after now was like. It wasn't the one that did the damage. It's
exactly.
just so I'm just like, I don't know. None of that felt satisfying. Like
didn't.
even in the one at the end, I'm like, okay, there's some good shit in here, and it kind of made me go like, ooh, that's a nice scene. That's a nice scene, but I don't know. Either I was just too desensitized by that point, or I've already seen better ones by that point.
Because the emotional point was wasted. The emotional point was him seeing the satisfaction of killing the guy who cut him up, who cut up his niece, who stole his niece. And all this shit.
Yeah, made her go through all that shit, drugged her up, and fucking killed her, I guess.
So I'm just like, their satisfaction was killing that guy. The other guy could have been killed off screen. I don't give a fuck about that guy. But your emotional hook, your emotional anchor was that guy that you killed off screen. I'm just like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
He was the baddest one out of both of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was up to him, Rambo would have not been alive after that first encounter. Mm-hmm. It was the brother who was just like, no. Let's keep him alive. Let's make him suffer, you know? So it's kind of like, why didn't you show me him killing the fucking main guy?
I don't know. There's just so many ways you could have gone with the movie differently. There's a good premise in this movie.
Oh, for sure, dude.
But the way they went about it, I think, was wrong in a lot of ways. So,
So what was that scene, Orlando? You said the gore kind of threw you off. It was too much for you.
I mean, the ending. When it cuts out the heart.
The fatality. I literally looked at the screen. I went fatality.
I was laughing, dude.
I was like, this doesn't match the rest of the movie, though. It didn't match.
It was stupid.
Like, I know people watched the last Rambo. I don't know if you guys saw the last one. There's a part where he gets the big fucking gun and he just
cutting up everybody.
Right, but it still made sense with the rest of the movie. You know, it wasn't cartoony.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. It was just over the top, but not necessarily cartoony. The movie was over the top, but that heart thing was cartoony as fuck.
Yeah,
I was like,
he's like, I'm gonna rip out your heart.
And I'm gonna feed it to you, or some shit like that. I don't know.
I want to rip out your heart like you ripped out mine. And then
there you go. That's what it is.
Something like that.
Yeah, he like ripped out his heart, had him look at it, and then he squeezed, and that's when the guy dies. It was almost like he telepathically killed him. I'm like, I've seen this in Mortal Kombat, but in Mortal Kombat, it's played for laughs.
It's just too much, man. Like, it's just like, all right.
I didn't understand the tone they were going for, and then it was just,
It was a mixed tone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mixed tone and the plot just didn't matter.
And the action, honestly, like
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was like Rambo meets Home Alone at the end.
Oh my god! I'm so glad you.
That's what I said.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because after I left the movie, I called Shanti and I said, "This is Man on Fire, Home Alone." That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
With Taken, it's definitely Home Alone. You got that shit right.
And
on the fucking
I
noggin.
wanted more of that because I did enjoy like the traps and people like dying. I like how he was always around like to get the second
to get the guy
to get the shot.
Yeah.
Like they would get trapped and he's like out of a corner. Boom.
Like a guy stubs his toe on one of his traps. Oh, double shotgun, bloom.
He has tunnels for the tunnels.
A guy dropped a penny. Ooh, a penny. Boom. He's right in the corner.
Ooh, piece of candy. He kicks him in the huevos like. No, but then there's that part. The guy falls into like the spikes, then he comes in and just AK-47s in the shreds.
Yeah, unnecessary. Shoots him like 20 times.
I feel like the chops would have more impact if he wasn't there for those chops. Like, because like you said, he keeps popping up around the
Keeps
corner.
spawning with the traps.
So I'm like, dude, you set up traps to kill them in the traps. Why are you gonna set up the traps to get him stabbed? And
To
you be
just
like,
wait there.
Like,
Yeah.
no, dude, like, come on.
You imagine how cool it would have been if there was a scene where you hear the guy screaming from the left because the guy fell for the trap, and then Rambo's there on the right, like waiting for him because it was like, the screams are distractions.
Yeah.
But they didn't show it. It was just Rambo waiting by the traps, like, all right, here he goes. And I got him.
I got him.
That's accurate. I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't care about the double tap.
The triple, quadruple, quintuple tap.
There was one time when he went crazy with the shotgun, like, bah, 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 bah. I'm like, dude, he fell in your trap and you shot him like 5 times. He's dead.
Yeah.
But
Like,
remember,
relax.
he's mad. They killed his knees.
The action's a lot, and I guess like coming off of like the great movie that John Wick was, action wise. I would want like that director just to do this because it's like you can do gore, but you can make it quick and make it like look like fucking art, Like this makes it like you sit with the gore for too long, and it feels like more of like what is that like
Torture porn.
Torture porn, thank you. And that's what I feel like it was doing.
Especially when he was getting the collarbone. The collarbone scene.
Oh, man. That scene was intense.
I'm very squeamish, so every time that happens, I have my hands on my face and I'm like looking through my
I just love
fingers.
the audience's reactions. They're like, oh.
But
This is intense.
like the reporter character was completely pointless.
She was so pointless.
There was no point.
You wasted an actress.
She was there to give you exposition about who the gang members are. Oh, they're brothers.
Could have been anybody.
Cool. I didn't have to know that.
Yeah. It could have been anybody, to be honest with you.
They could have showed a scene where he was actually like spying on them and got surveillance. Like the guy's Green Beret. Like you've seen him in the other 4 movies of him actually doing crazy shit.
And that's the thing I didn't understand about this movie. Why would he go in there blindly?
Yeah.
After all his experience and training, wouldn't you scout the place,
Right.
seen the people?
Yeah.
Like-
Instead, he's like, oh wait.
He goes in there. He's like,
He's like, wait, look at these lookouts. Let me pose here for a minute and stare at them. And then
Yeah.
they start going. And he's like, oh well, let me walk nice and softly around here. And
I'm just like, where's your years of training?
so the point of the movie, of that part in the movie, I get it.
It's to show them.
Well, what's the show? Oh, he's out of his element, so he got his ass handed to him. So bring them to his element, and they're done.
and how organized the
But the thing
crime.
is,
I get it, but it still wasn't satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, you can be out of your element, but still try to be prepared.
Yeah.
And realize, oh wait, I'm outgunned. So let me lure them. But you didn't do that. So yeah, you're right. It's like
it was like in Taken,
And he's smart.
Yeah, in Taken, he was out of his element. I mean, he knew shit, but he still had to understand and know what these people were about, how they worked, how they did things. And he had surveillance. He went through a whole bunch of process to get into where he needed to do. So I feel like this guy, Rambo, he's done so much shit before. Like, you, out of your element, you need to understand your situation, your surroundings. Like, how do you attack these people? How do you go in there? The reporter could have even when the reporter saw him staring at the guy in the club, why didn't she stop him and be like, hey, yo, like, let me give you the exposition right quick, right? Before you get fucking ambushed or whatever. Like, there were just moments where it could have happened, where he could have gotten his exposition, where he could have been smarter about it, where characters could have helped him. I think she could have been integral to the plot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
She could have helped him out a lot.
and like given like the critical reception of this movie and people writing all their think piece, this does feel like a movie though, regardless of like the criticism of like a 90s movie.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels like a really bad like 90s movie.
It felt like a bad, yeah.
It felt like it's
I was hoping it would feel more 80s or 90s. That way I could be like, you know what? This dumb plot doesn't matter. because
It's
as
something
long
related
as
to
it
action.
feels like it's from its time, it's from that era, I'm okay with it. The same way that I'm okay with like Rambo 2 and 3. They're not good movies, but they're a product of the time. I thought he was gonna try and mimic that, but no, this was still trying to be gritty in a way to try and feel. If it was 90s, he wouldn't have gone all gory and shit, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just weird.
It is what it is, I guess. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you saw Rambo, let us know what you thought about it. Do you agree with our opinions? Is the movie higher or lower in your rating? Let us know. We're on Facebook and Instagram. You could comment on our pictures. Let us know your thoughts. Till next time.
Bye bye.
Later.